Hi everyone and welcome back to the SwiftCase Productivity Podcast. My name is Adam Sykes, the founder of SwiftCase, the professional productivity platform. And today we've got Craig with us.
Yeah, I'm Craig McCarthy, the development manager at SwiftCase, and I work in our Baltic Triangle office in Liverpool.
I'm Alkis, senior developer over at SwiftCase.
And I'm Phil, with me, developer over at Baltic Triangle with Craig and Alkis.
Okay, great. So last time we were talking about some of our favourite apps and what the features are and how other people can use them. So hopefully you've checked out some of the apps that we put at the bottom of our videos last time. So we put all the links there so people can find them, and hopefully you left your comments about what apps you use and what you think is good, and whether you think the apps that we suggested are any good, and whether there's any better alternatives out there as well. So we did manage to get around all of our app suggestions, so we thought we'd split this podcast into two parts. So I think our next app that we're going to look at is one of yours, Alkis.
Yeah, it's called Box, and for any stock traders out there, it's basically a stock trading app, not limited to stock trading, investing in general. But what I liked about it back when I used it is it kind of gamifies this whole idea of stock trading. So if you were like me and coming into it from a very fresh perspective, it's quite overwhelming seeing all the different types of charts and just like this very Wall Street appearance of it. But then Box does this thing where it kind of gives you a score and kind of compares you to other players.
Yeah.
And it really makes it fun. I mean, I'm not advocating stock trading. That's of course up to your preference, you know.
But if you're into it anyway, and you're aware that you can lose money as well as make money, and
then
all sort of caveats,
check out.
It's a good app to have a look at.
Yeah.
So I think it's stock trading is a bit like gambling, isn't it? Some people like to gamble. As long as people are gambling responsibly, and that you're not putting in more than you can afford to lose, then it's a bit of fun. Or you want a bit more.
You even have the option actually with virtual currency. So if you don't really want to risk any capital, you can always
you can have a play around.
That's very much like the book we're going to talk about next week, where it's the freemium model. So it's almost like a freemium. You might pay for the app. You're having the freemium experience with stock trading.
That's a good idea. It helps people to learn about how it works and give it a go. And obviously, it does provide an important part of our capitalist structure. So it's important that way. So cheers for that, Alkis. So that's books. That's BUX, isn't it?
BUX.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we're now on to Phil's next app. This is your last app.
Yes. It's actually I think it's now built in to iOS. I think it was originally an app by a smaller company called Workflow, and it allowed you to automate a lot of the tasks you do on your phone. Right?
Okay.
And of course, like any good app on iOS, Apple come in and then buy them out and then integrate it into their system as if they invented it all along.
Yeah. So
they've now incorporated it into the latest release of their operating system, which is called Shortcuts now.
Okay.
So for instance, the way I use it is when I want to share my location and how long I'm going to take to get home with anyone, with my wife particularly, because she's usually by the end of the day hanging on for dear life with the two kids, desperate for me to get home to help out. So usually, instead of me having to get in the car and then type out a message saying on my way and then I'll be this much time, I just got a shortcut that I swipe left, press the button, and it just sends her a pre-written message with the estimated time. And that's just one of the small things it does. It'll do anything based on location, so it can turn up. So say if I got to work, I could say, send a text that's an automated text that says I've arrived at work safely, or anything, or remind me to sort of get my camera because we're doing the podcast when I get home, all those sorts of things. So it's really powerful, and the interface is really intuitive and easy to use, like that. So
That's amazing, really, because one of the things we tend to talk about a lot is how you can automate processes in business, but what you're doing there is
automate life.
Personal life.
I just got sick of typing out messages. Trying to be witty every time.
Yeah, it's productivity at its finest. Saving the time.
The only shame is it's on an iPhone. That discounts a lot of it.
No, that's
I'm
actually.
sure there's an equivalent. Maybe
Yeah,
someone who's watching knows the equivalent on
Yeah, so for Android, for us Samsung users, what app would you use instead of shortcuts?
Yeah.
Or previously worked like?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So that's another great app that people can check out if they're on iPhone. So my final app was going to be Grammarly. So basically we've started doing a lot of blog posts now, a lot of content we're writing, and being from a tech background, I probably haven't really written many things certainly since university, and even then it was kind of very dry, technical documentation and papers and so on. So I haven't really written anything like modern form where you need to know. I don't know where the comma's meant to go, or the sort of things like when do you use a semicolon, all these sort of things. And people, unless you're into English language or you've been doing it regularly, you lose out. You sort of get out of practice, don't you? Now I think that's where most grammar checkers kind of stop, and like spelling and grammar checkers, like you get in Microsoft Word or Google Docs or whatever else, they kind of stop there. Where Grammarly is even better is it lets you define goals for your text, so you can say, I want this piece of work to inform people, to convince people, to describe something, to tell a story, and how you want, what level of expertise your user is at. So are they a knowledgeable person, or are they a complete beginner, or are they experts, and what sort of sector they're in. So you're writing for business, academia and so on. So you can set all these goals, and depending on what goals you set, Grammarly makes different suggestions. So for example, sometimes it tells me I'm too direct when I'm telling people, you need to do this in your business.
Yeah.
Well, people do need to do this in their business, but sometimes Grammarly tells me, maybe you should just make this a bit more of a suggestion and say, perhaps you should try.
You need this.
Yeah, perhaps you should try. And I normally delete those ones, but most of the others are very good suggestions.
I like the way it tells you about passive voices.
Passive voices.
One of the things I'm terrible at is writing in passive voice.
Yeah.
Constantly do it, and I use Grammarly as well.
What's an example of passive voice? People don't really know.
So like when you're writing something, and like let's say you say, I have been doing this, or you should have been doing this.
You put I do this.
You put I do this.
Yeah.
You're like writing the active. That's probably not a good example, but I can't remember because that's why I have Grammarly.
That's exactly. Probably on the spot though, I've got to come with a sentence.
Yeah. Passive voice is when you write about it in the past, like you should have been doing this, or I looked this, or something was concluded.
Yeah, intuitively you know it's wrong, but you can't necessarily formally explain why.
Yeah, because what you've written is right. If you read it, it would be the correct sentence.
Yeah.
This was concluded is a correct sentence.
Yeah.
But you will come to this conclusion, or you will conclude this. It sounds better.
The story of it.
Yeah. So it helps with lots of different things, and
It also has a built-in plagiarism checker as well.
and you can even, if you want to pay, you can actually submit it to a live proofreader and pay someone, and someone will actually read it. So I don't tend to use that, but certainly all the other bits you can check if you've taken a bit of text from a website, like a quote or something, you can check you're not using too much, or like you can check your work is something on there.
Yeah, I mean it's applicable to all sorts, isn't it? Really, there's a free version which also you can have it as a browser extension. So that's really handy. You don't have to use their dedicated app or anything like that.
It works in Microsoft Word as well, actually, but it's not that great at the integration. I mean, I tend to use it just as the app by itself, just because I find the one thing that's quite good is because it hasn't got any formatting. You literally choose the title, then you type, and apart from putting in extra line breaks, returns, and maybe some tabs or something, you can't format your document. There's no bold, there's no italic, so you just concentrate on writing the content.
Just the words.
And then once you've actually got your content, then you can format it. So it just it's totally distraction free, and also it saves all your stuff. So like any other cloud-based thing, it saves all your content, and you can get to that content on any computer that you've got, and you can access it through the website. So
I wish I had this on my dissertation.
so it's not great with large documents. So the book I was talking about, so I actually edited one of my father-in-law's books, and I used Grammarly, and what I found is that although he had a Word document to begin with, I effectively had to separate it out.
It processes it all at once, doesn't it, rather than...
Yeah. So if you change something, sometimes it will be
long.
Yeah, so I found it's great with blog posts, but if you're doing anything long, you need to section things up and do it that
How much
way.
is a video?
I can't remember, it's not that expensive.
It's not that expensive.
It's not that expensive, but I'm sure we can put the price in the comments in case anyone wants to get it. But
check out the price
check out Grammarly,
page.
it'll make your writing much better.
Yeah, definitely.
Better.
The app that I wanted to talk about next kind of relates to this a little bit. You might have seen if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you don't, please click the little red button underneath and the bell. That we've been doing a lot of videos recently. The app that I've actually been using to do any of mine is something called Big View, and that's, well, you can see it's up there. It's VU, not View. And it's got a free version, but there's a subscription as well to remove the watermarks and things like that. But it's more when we're kind of following a bit of a loose script, and rather than stopping every 10 seconds to check what I'm going to say, or getting a dedicated teleprompter or anything like that, or using the more creative methods that I know that you use. It actually shows the text that you're going to read out on the screen. But it does it in a clever way where it's positioned near your camera lens.
So you're looking at the lens.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like you're reading anything, which is really, really handy. On top of that, it comes with like all these little bits that you can do as well. So like really quick edits. So if you've recorded it in portrait mode, it adds like the bars on the side without worrying about editing. You can trim it. You can add like little effects on. You can put your logo in the corner. It's got all little transitions, and I probably wouldn't recommend it for a fully fledged crazy video or anything. But if you're making quick videos, like I tend to do when I go to events, it's amazing for stuff like that.
Short 15, 30 seconds.
I'd record say a 30-second video at an event, and it would be on all my social media channels within probably about 2 or 3 minutes.
That's great.
And it just saves me all the time of worrying about edits or anything like that. So definitely recommend it, especially if you're kind of going off a loose script or you need to read it now. Really good.
Okay, that's great. And then the last app of this podcast series is over to you, Alkis.
Deliveroo.
Time for lunch,
Now, I'm not one for ordering food, but when I want to order food, I want it to be as simple and as streamlined as possible.
Yeah.
And that's where Deliveroo takes the box. Like, it's not only that they make it simple, they have a lot of features in it that really just make the whole process better for you. I mean, you can track exactly where the driver is.
That is the important thing, and that is to go on another app, very similar, I suppose, Uber.
Exactly.
Where I think that's completely changed the way, if it's available in your area, which it should be pretty much anywhere in the country now, it's amazing to be able to track exactly where they are, and it makes all the difference.
I think it's very underrated.
Yeah, I think if I was to choose ordering from one place or the other, even if the price was slightly more expensive, I think having the ability to know exactly where my food, my drive, or where anything is, I'd opt for the more expensive one every time for that reason.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And we're seeing this feature pop up a lot in different apps. Like you said, I think Google was probably one of the first to implement it. But it's coming up, and I think it really adds to the whole, app.
You get excited, your food's nearly you watch your food getting closer.
I have to say, at least in the Liverpool area, I used to live quite close to the city centre. I know Deliveroo, I don't know what other cities.
I was going to say, I don't live in Liverpool, I live over the water from where it was, suburban, and we can't get these sort of apps, so it's not necessarily everywhere because you've got to have these mad cyclists with the boxes on their backs, haven't you, to actually go and deliver your food. And obviously the demand's not there at the moment, so it does tend to be in city centres.
It's a bit of a slow burner, isn't it, with the availability of this, but I lived in the city centre and it was amazing. I spent so much money on fast food because of this. But I have have to give a bit of a shout out to the actual drivers as well, because I remember I was at the flat one day and we ordered some food, and this guy had actually got run over. Believe it or not, he was involved in an accident. He was just on his bike, and we were like, we're on the app, and we're like, oh, can we stop or something? What's going on? What's going on? So he shows up and he's like, oh, I'm really, really sorry, I'm a little bit late. He was only 5 minutes late, right? And he was limping. And I was like, bloody hell, like the dedication of these people.
But I think that also leads on to another thing where, you know, the downside of these type of apps is whether, you know, the gig economy and are people being paid enough.
It's the rating
for
system.
level of, and you know, that's, although he's done that, would you really expect driven to having an accident to deliver your food?
Believe me, we tipped him quite well. but I could have easily have gone, oh, he hasn't been here on time, I'm going to give him 1 star. The reason he probably didn't show the information to me was that he was probably quite worried that I would damage his reputation on these services.
This is a sad,
exactly. And it's the same with all these, the gig economy, isn't it?
Well, that's another episode.
From a consumer standpoint.
From a consumer standpoint, though, and you know, the businesses could always pay them more, and then that would affect actually how you actually get your food with it. So, from an app and an ease of use standpoint, it's definitely one of the better ones nowadays, isn't it? So, from writing blog articles to delivering your dinner, from sort of doing video marketing and what else have we
keeping in touch with your kids.
Keeping in touch with your kids. There's lots of great apps out there on there. So if you haven't already, after our last podcast, drop any of the apps in the comments below that you use. And if you've got any comments on what we've been talking about, put that in as well. We'd be interested to hear what you've got to say.
Yeah, and we also make an app as well, SwiftCase, so a workflow management platform. You might have heard us talking about it in the past. If you want to check that out, go to swiftcase.co.uk. But also, don't forget to drop us a line on some of your favourite apps over on our social media channels. That's SwiftCase UK on Twitter. We're all on LinkedIn. We've got Phil Whitby, Alkis Petru, Trade McCarthy, and Adam Sykes.
And don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell to get the notifications when we do another amazing podcast.
That's great. Thanks everyone for listening. This has been the SwiftCase Productivity Podcast, and we'll catch you next time.